sat in the car outside the police station, watching my son sleep in the back seat, his small hand still gripping the toy fire truck we'd grabbed in our rush out of the motel. The officer had just told me I did the right thing. The right thing. I wanted to laugh, but my throat was too tight. Because what kind of mother doesn't notice her own husband planning to kill her and her child? What kind of mother thinks everything is fine while her 6-year-old is listening to murder plans through a bedroom wall? I'd spent years building what I thought was a stable life, a good marriage, a safe home, and it took a Tuesday morning and 4 words from my son to show me I'd been living inside a lie. The morning air smelled like rain and gasoline. I could still see smoke when I closed my eyes. If you want more stories like this, please subscribe. The channel is still growing. I met David when I was 23, working double shifts at a diner in Portland. He was older, confident, wore nice shoes. He left big tips and always remembered my name. 6 months later, I was pregnant. 6 months after that, we were married in a small ceremony at City Hall. My mother said I was rushing. I said I was in love. Maybe we were both right. When Tommy was born, I held him for the first time in that bright hospital room and thought I finally understood what people meant when they talked about purpose. He was so small, barely 7 pounds, with dark hair like mine, and David's straight nose. I counted his fingers 3 times. I sang to him even though I can't carry a tune. Those first months were hard, sleepless, overwhelming, beautiful in a way I couldn't explain. David was working long hours even then, building his consulting business. I didn't mind. I had Tommy. I had our apartment with the yellow walls I'd painted myself. I had a plan. We'd save money, buy a house, give Tommy siblings, build something real. By the time Tommy turned 6, we'd moved to a gated community in Beaverton. 3 bedrooms, a yard, neighbors who smiled and waved. David traveled more for work, sometimes twice a month. I handled things at home. I was good at it. Tommy was in 1st grade, learning to read, obsessed with fire trucks and dinosaurs. Our life looked exactly like I'd imagined it. I had no idea what was coming. That Tuesday started like any other. David had a morning flight to Denver, some client meeting that would keep him there for 3 days. I made coffee while he packed, reminded him about Tommy's parent-teacher conference on Friday. He kissed my forehead, tousled Tommy's hair. Normal. We drove him to the airport in my sedan. Tommy buckled in back with his tablet. The radio played something forgettable. David checked his phone twice. At departures, he grabbed his carry-on from the trunk. "Be good for Mom," he told Tommy. "Always am," Tommy said, but his voice sounded strange. Small. I noticed but didn't think about it. David walked into the terminal. I merged back into traffic. Tommy was quiet the whole drive home, staring out the window. I asked if he wanted pancakes for lunch. He said okay, but didn't look at me. I chalked it up to the early morning. Maybe he was tired. We were 10 minutes from our neighborhood when he spoke. "Mom, don't go home." I glanced in the rearview mirror. His face was pale. "What do you mean, honey? Please, we can't go home. Dad's going to do something bad." My stomach dropped, but I kept my voice calm. "What are you talking about?" "I heard him on the phone last night, when you were in the shower." He was in the hallway. His words came faster now, tumbling over each other. He said he'd be far away when it happened. He said there'd be fire and we'd be sleeping and nobody would know it wasn't an accident. The air in the car felt thin. I pulled into a grocery store parking lot, hands shaking on the wheel. Turned to face him. "Tommy, are you sure? What exactly did you hear?" He said our names, Mom. Yours and mine. He said the guys would come after he left and they had a key, and it would look like the stove or something, and he'd get the money, and nobody could prove anything because he'd be in Denver. He was crying now, silent tears running down his cheeks. He said we'd be asleep. I wanted to tell him he'd misunderstood, that Dad would never, that this was crazy, but his face, the raw terror in his 6-year-old eyes, and something else clicked into place. David's mood the past few weeks. The weird phone calls he took in the garage, the way he'd asked me twice, casually, if I'd updated my life insurance beneficiary. Jesus. I grabbed my phone with shaking hands, called David. It went to voicemail. Called again. Same thing. Tommy watched me, his small chest heaving. "What do we do?" he whispered. I didn't know. I couldn't think. Instead of going home, I drove to a coffee shop 3 blocks from our subdivision, parked where I could see the entrance to our street. Tommy sat beside me in the front seat now, his hand in mine. We waited. 20 minutes passed. Then I saw it. A gray truck I didn't recognize, slowing at our street. 2 men inside. They turned in. My heart hammered against my ribs. I watched them park in front of our house. They walked to the door like they belonged there. One of them pulled out a key. They went inside. Tommy squeezed my hand so hard it hurt. "Mom, I see them, baby. I see them." We sat there, frozen. 5 minutes. 10. Then smoke. Just a thin line at first, curling from under the garage door. Then more. Darker. One of the windows shattered from the heat. The men came out, got in the truck, drove away slowly. Calm. Like they'd just finished a job. Someone down the street started yelling. A siren wailed in the distance. I put the car in reverse and drove. I didn't know where I was going. Just away. I ended up at a Motel 6 off Highway 26. Paid cash for a room. Tommy sat on the bed, still holding that toy fire truck. While I paced and tried to think, my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I called 911 first. Reported the fire but didn't give my name. Then I called my cousin Rachel in Seattle. She was a paralegal. Sharp. The only person in my family who'd ever questioned David. I told her everything in a rush. Tommy's words, the men, the fire. She was quiet for a moment. Then, "Lisa, listen to me very carefully. Don't go home. Don't call David. Don't tell anyone where you are. What do I do? Let me make some calls. Stay where you are. I'm coming down." She arrived 6 hours later with a woman named Carla, a private investigator who'd worked with Rachel's firm before. Carla was maybe 50, gray hair and a ponytail, calm eyes. She sat across from me at the motel table while Rachel took Tommy to get food from the vending machine. "Tell me everything about your husband's finances," Carla said. I told her what I knew, which wasn't much. David handled the money. He said it was easier that way. I had enough to manage with Tommy in the house. He gave me a credit card, deposited money in our joint checking. I didn't ask questions. I'd trusted him. Carla made notes on a small pad. Life insurance? I don't know. Maybe? He mentioned something a few months ago about updating policies. She nodded. "I'll need access to your accounts. Computer passwords. Anything you have." It took her 2 days. 2 days in that motel room, watching cable news reports about the tragic house fire in Beaverton, the family miraculously away from home. They showed footage of our house, or what was left of it. Blackened walls, collapsed roof. The fire chief said it looked like a gas leak, possibly from the stove. An accident. David called me 17 times the first day, left voicemails. His voice panicked, begging me to call him back. I listened to one. Just one. He sounded terrified, devastated. If I hadn't known, I would have believed him. Carla came back to the motel on Thursday evening. She spread papers across the bed. Bank statements, insurance documents, emails. "Your husband is drowning," she said. "Business loans, credit cards, a gambling problem he's been hiding for 2 years. He's $400,000 in debt." I stared at the numbers. They didn't make sense. And this, she pushed a document toward me. Life insurance policy, $2 million. Beneficiary, David Hoffman. Insured, Lisa Hoffman and Thomas Hoffman. Dated 6 months ago. "He forged your signature," Carla said. "I already checked with the insurance company. They have no record of you signing in person." The room tilted. Rachel put her hand on my shoulder. Tommy was asleep in the other bed, thank God. "So he was going to kill you both," Carla said simply. "Make it look like an accident. Collect the insurance money. Clear his debts and start over." I thought I might throw up. Carla had a contact, a woman named Agent Morrison with the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. We met her in a diner in Salem on Friday morning. She was younger than I expected, maybe 35, with tired eyes and a firm handshake. She listened to everything, took notes, asked Tommy gentle questions about what he'd heard. He answered in a whisper, barely audible. When he was done, she looked at me. "We can build a case, but it'll take time. Months. And he'll probably get a lawyer who'll tear apart a 6-year-old's testimony. So he just gets away with it?" My voice cracked. "I didn't say that." She tapped her pen on the table. "But attempted murder is hard to prove when nothing actually happened to you. The fire could still look like an accident if he has a good attorney. The insurance fraud is solid, but it's not the same as attempted homicide. Then what do we do?" She exchanged a glance with Carla. "We make him confess." They laid it out over cold coffee and eggs I couldn't eat. A sting operation. I'd tell David I wanted to meet him, somewhere private. We'd wire me, get him talking about what happened, why it happened, what went wrong. It was risky. He might suspect something, but it was our best shot. I looked at Tommy, coloring on a paper placemat with crayons the waitress had brought. His small hands moved carefully, staying inside the lines. He'd saved our lives by being brave enough to tell me what he heard. Now I had to be brave enough to face the man who'd tried to take those lives away. Okay, I said. Let's do it. I called David that night. He answered on the first ring. Lisa, thank God. Where are you? Are you and Tommy okay? His voice sounded raw, desperate. I almost believed him. Almost. We're fine. We weren't home when it happened. Jesus, I've been losing my mind. I flew back as soon as I heard. The house, Lisa, it's gone. Everything's gone. I know. I kept my voice steady. David, we need to talk. In person. Of course. Anything. Where are you? I'll text you an address. Come alone. Silence. Then, is something wrong? Just come alone. I hung up before he could ask anything else. Agent Morrison had arranged for us to use a cabin an hour outside Portland, isolated, surrounded by trees. They wired me with a device so small I could barely feel it under my shirt. Carla and 2 FBI agents would be in a van nearby, listening. Tommy stayed with Rachel at a safe house. I didn't want him anywhere near this. David arrived at sunset. I watched him park and walk to the cabin door, his shoulders hunched, his face drawn. He looked like he hadn't slept. Good. He knocked. I opened the door. For a moment we just stood there, looking at each other. Then he pulled me into a hug. I let him. His jacket smelled like airport coffee and smoke. I thought I lost you, he whispered into my hair. I stepped back. Come inside. We sat at the small kitchen table. I'd made tea neither of us would drink. He reached for my hand. I pulled away. Lisa, what's going on? You tell me, David. His face shifted, just slightly. I don't understand. The fire. The timing. You leaving that morning. I watched him carefully. It's convenient, isn't it? Convenient? Our house burned down. We lost everything. Did we? My voice was cold now. Or did you lose $400,000 in debt? His face went white. How do you... I know about the loans, the gambling, the insurance policy you forged. He stood up, knocking his chair back. Lisa, listen to me. I'm listening. I've been listening. Tommy's been listening too. His mouth opened, closed. Tommy? He heard you on the phone, David. The night before you left. He heard you planning it. The men with the key, the fire, the alibi. For a long moment he didn't move. Then something in his face changed. The panic faded. His eyes went flat. That little shit, he said quietly. And there it was, the man I'd never seen before. So what now? He said. You going to the cops? With what? A kid's story. Good luck. Why? My voice shook. Why would you do this to us? He laughed. Actually laughed. Do you know what it's like? Watching you spend money on groceries and Tommy's school supplies while I'm drowning? I built a business. I took risks. And I failed. This was the only way out. So, you decided to kill your wife and son. It wasn't supposed to feel like anything. You'd be asleep, quick, painless, and I'd be free. He said it like he was talking about putting down a sick dog, and the money would solve everything. He shrugged. $2 million. Clean slate. I could start over. I thought of Tommy's face in the car, his small voice saying Dad's going to do something bad. I thought of the men with the key, the smoke, the shattered window. I thought of what would have happened if my son hadn't been brave. You're sick, I whispered. I'm desperate. There's a difference. He moved toward the door. But since you're alive, I guess we'll figure something else out. Divorce. Whatever. I'll get a lawyer. You're not going anywhere. Agent Morrison stepped through the door, gun drawn. 2 other agents behind her. David's face went through shock, rage, terror in the span of seconds. You set me up. You tried to murder us, I said. I just made you tell the truth. They arrested him right there, read him his rights while he shouted about entrapment and illegal recordings. I didn't listen. I walked outside, into the cool evening air, and called Rachel. It's done, I said, and then I cried. The trial took 8 months. David's lawyer tried everything. Challenged the recording, attacked Tommy's credibility, claimed I'd manipulated the situation. None of it worked. The jury heard David's voice on that tape, cold and calculating, admitting everything. They saw the insurance documents, the financial records, the timeline that proved premeditation. The 2 men who'd started the fire were arrested 3 weeks after David. One of them agreed to testify in exchange for a reduced sentence. He confirmed everything. The key David had made, the plan, the money he'd been promised. David was convicted of 2 counts of attempted murder, arson, insurance fraud, and conspiracy. They sentenced him to 30 years. I didn't go to the sentencing. Tommy and I were already gone. We'd moved to a small town in Washington, a place where nobody knew our story. Rachel helped us find an apartment, cheap but clean. I got a job at a credit union. Tommy started 2nd grade. At night, sometimes, he'd wake up crying from nightmares about fire. I'd hold him until he fell back asleep. We went to therapy, both of us, separately and together. Dr. Kim was patient, kind, never pushed. She helped Tommy understand that what happened wasn't his fault. She helped me understand that I'd missed every warning sign because I'd been comfortable, complacent, unwilling to see what was right in front of me. "You trusted your husband," she said once. "That's not a character flaw. I should have known. I should have protected him better." "You did protect him. When it mattered most, you listened. You believed him. You acted." Maybe she was right, but it didn't stop the guilt, the what-ifs. What if Tommy hadn't overheard that call? What if he'd been too scared to tell me? What if I'd ignored him, told him he was imagining things? We'd be dead. It was that simple. We lost the house. The insurance company refused to pay out on a policy involved in a criminal case. We lost our savings fighting the legal battle. We lost the life I'd thought we were building, but we were alive. I kept telling myself that. We were alive. Tommy slowly got better. The nightmares came less often. He made friends at his new school. He laughed again. Really laughed. The kind that made his whole body shake. I started to sleep through the night. Started to trust my own judgment again. One afternoon, almost 2 years after the fire, I was contacted by a reporter. She'd covered the trial and wanted to write a longer piece about domestic violence, financial abuse, the warning signs women miss. At first I said no. Then I thought about other women like me, women who trusted too much, who didn't ask questions, who thought their lives were safe until they suddenly weren't. I agreed to the interview. The article ran in a regional magazine. Then it got picked up online. Then I started getting emails. Dozens, then hundreds. Women thanking me for speaking up. Women sharing their own stories. Women asking what signs they should watch for. I wasn't a hero. I was a mother who'd almost gotten her son killed because I'd been too blind to see the truth. But maybe that was exactly why my story mattered. I started speaking at shelters, community centers, anywhere that would have me. I talked about financial abuse, about controlling partners, about trusting your instincts even when it feels crazy. I talked about Tommy, how a 6-year-old's courage saved our lives. Not everyone wanted to hear it. Some people said I should have known. Some said I was exploiting my trauma. Maybe they were right, but for every nasty comment, there were 10 messages from women who said my story helped them leave, helped them ask questions, helped them protect themselves. That had to mean something. Tommy's 9 now. He still loves fire trucks but wants to be a veterinarian. He's good at math and terrible at keeping his room clean. He asks about his father sometimes. I tell him the truth, as much as he can handle. That his dad made bad choices, dangerous choices, but that doesn't mean Tommy is bad or dangerous. That loving someone and keeping yourself safe aren't mutually exclusive. That he did the right thing by telling me what he heard. We live simply now. A 2-bedroom apartment, secondhand furniture, a car that's more rust than paint, but it's ours. No lies, no secrets, no locked doors or whispered phone calls. Tommy knows exactly how much money we have and where it comes from. We make decisions together. Small ones, like what to have for dinner, but also big ones, like whether to move or stay, whether to see David if he ever asks. So far, he hasn't. I don't know if that's mercy or cowardice. I think about that morning a lot. Driving David to the airport, the normalcy of it, how close we came, how one decision, to listen to my son instead of dismissing his fear, changed everything. I'll never stop feeling guilty that it got that far, that I married a man capable of that I didn't see it coming. But I also know that guilt and gratitude can exist in the same space. I'm grateful Tommy spoke up. I'm grateful I listened. I'm grateful we survived. We're building a new life now. Not the one I planned, but a real one. A truthful one. Tommy's laughing in the next room. On the phone with a friend from school. The apartment smells like the spaghetti I'm making for dinner. The evening light is soft through the kitchen window. It's not the life I imagined at 23, holding my newborn son in that bright hospital room, but it's ours, and we're safe, and that's everything. If this story meant something to you, I hope you'll share it. Not because it's dramatic or shocking, but because it's real. Because somewhere, someone might be ignoring a feeling they can't explain, dismissing a warning they can't quite articulate. Sometimes survival is listening to the small voice that says something's wrong. Sometimes it's trusting a child who shouldn't have to carry that kind of knowledge. Sometimes it's admitting you didn't see the truth until it almost destroyed you. I'm not a hero. I'm not even particularly brave. I'm just a mother who got a second chance. And if sharing my story helps one person take the warning signs seriously, helps one family get out before it's too late, then maybe all of this mattered. Subscribe if you want to hear more stories like this. Real stories about real people, about the mistakes we make, and the ways we try to survive them, about the goodness that shows up in unexpected places, the courage it takes to admit when you're wrong, and the hope that exists even after everything falls apart. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And if you're in a situation that doesn't feel safe, trust that feeling. You don't need proof. You don't need permission. You just need to survive. The rest, we figure out as we go.